valuable use of your time. The key to concentrating the most valuable use of your time is to stay at the task until it's finished. Persevere without distraction or diversion. Keep at it. Hammer, hammer, hammer until your most important tasks are finished. And finally, develop that sense of urgency. Do it fast. Do it now. Fast tempo is essential to success. Fast tempo goes hand in hand with energy, with happiness, with enthusiasm, with self-esteem. So make crystal clear what you want to do, make crystal clear the steps, and start working on those steps and do something every day to move you toward the most important goals of your life. And if you do that, you will be an excellent time manager, an excellent personal manager, an excellent life manager. You will have a great, great life. It's interesting that there is what is called in the world of work a learning curve. A learning curve says this. It says when you do a job the first time, it takes you the most amount of time to do it because you're learning how. The second time it takes less. The third time it takes less. The fourth time it takes less. In fact, learning curve theory says that you can decrease the amount of time by as much as 80% if you do the same job over and over again over a period of time. So batching your tasks is a major time management tool. What does it mean? It means that if you're going to make phone calls, make all your phone calls at once. Have your calls held, make them all at once. If you're going to do invoices, do all the invoices at once. If you're going to do correspondence, do all the correspondence at once. If you're going to read and catch up, read everything at once. It's been found that if you do this on a regular basis, you'll get so much more done by doing it and concentrating on batches of tasks than if you did not. So batch your tasks whenever you possibly can. Imagine what most people do is they do a little bit of telephone call, a little bit of correspondence, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they have no learning curve at all. Each one takes the maximum amount of time. So batch your tasks. Put groups of tasks together at once and do them at once. Okay, the next principle is neatness. It's an interesting thing because you run into people all the time. I run into people in my office who say, it's okay if my desk is messy, I know where everything is. Now you have to understand one thing, is intelligent people, people with good memories, can very often remember where everything is. But it just means that they are using their intelligence to combat the inefficiency of neatness. Every single study that has been done says this, that if you will just clean up your work environment so it is completely neat and everything is off of your desk or your workplace except the one thing you're working on, that will increase your productivity by 20 to 40%. People have a difficult time understanding this, but I have tested it. I've worked with a messy desk, I've worked with a clean desk, and I tell you, I promise you, you will be astonished at the difference it makes. Now, how do you clean it up? Well, it's very simple. There's a very simple way of cleaning off a desk. It's called the TRAF system. The TRAF system has 4 letters. T stands for toss. Remember that in time management, your wastebasket is your best friend. So toss it out, throw it away. R stands for refer, which means it's not relevant to you, so you refer it to somebody else. A stands for action. And what you do is you take a file folder and you put it into an action folder, so it's out of the way. And F stands for file. File it away, do something with it. But before you file, always ask this question, what would happen if I didn't have this document? What would happen if I never could find this again? And if it's not particularly serious, throw that away too. Once you've done that, TRAF, you've tossed it, referred it, filed it, or put it in an action file. Once you've done that, then you start with your action file and you work through it. Neatness is important. Clean your desk, clean your workplace. Even in the kitchen, you'll find that if you take one thing out and use it and put it away, and take another thing out, you'll get far more done in a short period of time. Now, here's the rule. If you're not using it, put it away. If you're not using it, put it away. Even if you have to take the stuff off your desk and your credentials and put it on the floor, do it. Your briefcase is your workplace if you are on the road, if you're a salesperson, if you're moving around. Make sure your briefcase is neat and orderly and has everything that you need and nothing more than you need. Neatness is critical to productivity. Here's a final point. In a study that was done recently, 98% of senior executives said they would not promote a messy person, that they would not give a messy person greater responsibilities, that if you are messy, no matter how much you kid yourself, everybody around you concludes that you are inefficient, undependable, unreliable, and incompetent, and even if you do the job well, they think it's just an accident. So be neat. Stand back from your desk and look at it and say, what kind of a person would work at a desk like this? Stand back and look at your car. Say, what kind of a person drives a car like this? Look at your workplace, your briefcase. Look at your home and say, what kind of a person lives here or works here? And you'll find that what will come to you is messy, inefficient, incompetent, disorganized, and so on. Neatness is critical to time management. Number 15 is what is called getting chunks of time. Interesting studies. Over and over they have found that important work requires chunks of time to do. What is a chunk of time? A chunk of time is 60, 90 minutes, 2 hours. In fact, it's been found that most serious work cannot be done in less than 60 or 90 minutes. So when we look at the work styles of highly effective people, successful people, the ones who make the most money, the ones who graduate or are promoted the most rapidly, you find that they have developed the habit of cutting out blocks of time where they can work without interruption. Now here's an example. There's several examples that you can use. One of the examples, and one of the ways that I do it, is that I get up early in the morning. Sometimes I get up at 5 a.m. and I'll work for 2 or 3 solid hours. You can get an entire day's work done in 3 uninterrupted hours. As a matter of fact, again, we have found that it's impossible for you to do creative work and administrative work at the same time. If you have creative work to do, reports to do, proposals, anything that requires a sustained period of time to put together, you cannot do it at the desk when the telephone is ringing and people are coming in. You cannot do administrative and creative work together. You have to break them apart. In the office, you do administrative work and you cut away chunks of time for the important stuff that affects your future. One of the things that I do is I come into the office an hour early. I can clear off in 1 hour, I can do half a day's work. Another thing that you can do is stay at the office at lunchtime. Work at your desk. At lunchtime sometimes is the very best time to work. And by the way, if you work from 12 to 1 and then go out for lunch, you'll find that you can get in anywhere, that you don't have any wait, that you can get in and out and back to work quickly. A third is stay late. Sometimes just working from 5 to 7, you'll do an entire day's worth of work. By the way, with regard to travel, I travel a lot and more people travel by air. 1 uninterrupted hour on an aircraft, if you're properly organized with all of your work in your briefcase, is worth 3 hours in your office. So if you're going to travel, be sure that you take the work necessary so that you can work, if you like a workhorse once you get on that plane. I always try to sit next to a window. If you sit next to a window, you can bury yourself in your work. You have no interference, people not walking over you, but you can get an enormous amount of work done on the plane. As a matter of fact, much of this course that we're talking about today was done on airplanes. Number 16 is to use what we call transition time. Remember this, is that you will always be paid in life for the value of your contribution. And if you want to earn more, you must learn more. And the most successful people are those who are continually taking in new information, continually learning more, continually taking every opportunity to keep current with their profession and to advance their knowledge. In fact, the knowledge in every single field today is doubling every 5 to 7 years, which means that whatever you're doing, in order to stay even, your knowledge has to double every 5 to 7 years. Now, it's simple to do this. The basic rule is this. You should or you must spend an hour every day investing in your own mind, investing in yourself. You must take an hour every day and read and study and take notes. If you're doing less than an hour a day, you're falling behind. If you do 2 hours a day, you put yourself on the side of the angels. Now, here's some of the ways that you can get this extra learning time, this extra working time, this extra personal growth time. First and most important of all is driving or traveling to and from work. If you drive, the average driver today drives 12 to 25,000 miles a year. That's the equivalent of 500 to 1,000 hours a year. And of course, if you're on the Los Angeles freeways, it's about 1,500 hours to 2,000. That is the equivalent of 12 to 25 40-hour work weeks. That's the equivalent of 3 to 6 months of work weeks. That's 1 to 2 university semesters. You know, the average person, of course, it's not you, because the people who watch videotapes like this are usually the cream in any organization or any society. The average person sits there and listens to the radio all the time. You can become one of the best educated people in your profession simply by listening to audio cassettes going to and from work or to and from errands. Now, another very important part of transition time is coffee breaks. You know, the average person takes 2 coffee breaks a day, 20 minutes each, 40 minutes a day. 40 minutes a day times 5 days a week is 200 minutes. 200 minutes times 50 weeks a year is 10,000 minutes. 10,000 minutes is 166 hours. 166 hours is over 4 full 40-hour weeks. Now, what does that mean to you? It means that if you just decide that you're going to read on a particular subject at your coffee breaks for the next year, you will be an expert on that subject before the year is out. Just when you sit down with coffee, make sure that you have something to read, whether it's time management or goal setting or personal communications or your profession. If you wanted to be an outstanding salesperson, if you just read on your coffee breaks, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and applied what you learned, you could double your income in less than a year. And most people sit there in their coffee breaks and they read the sports page and they don't realize that their life is passing them by. Well, another key element of transition time is lunchtimes. The average person takes an hour a day. An hour a day times 250 working days a year is 250 hours. 250 hours is 6 full weeks of time that you spend eating lunch. If you just read at your lunchtime and something that will help you grow and advance in your career, if you did nothing but coffee breaks and lunchtime, you'd become one of the best educated people in society within 3 to 5 years. And you know what the average person does? They waste this time. Another important part of transition time, by the way, if you read magazines, instead of carrying magazines, what you do is you read a magazine, tear out all the articles, put it in a file. And whenever you're traveling, keep that file with you. You're sitting waiting for something, you're waiting in a waiting room, you're taking a trip, you have appointments that are canceled, just pull out your file and keep current. Remember, keep taking in more information. Use those, what are called gifts of time. These are gifts of time that are given to us by God, and we can do anything we want with them. But high-performing human beings use those gifts of time as though they were precious, and low-performing human beings do not. Which do you want to be? Okay, the next is what we call telephone. You know, the telephone is interesting. Telephone is an essential part of our lives, but as we said a little bit earlier, we are conditioned from our teenage years to look upon the telephone as a social tool. It's something that we look forward to getting onto because we associate it with romance and fun and communications with people that are important to us. As adults, however, we have to change our thinking 180 degrees. We have to realize that the telephone is a business tool. The telephone is a business tool. It's like a computer, it's like a typewriter, it's like a photocopier. It may have other uses, but it's a business tool. So here's the rule with using the telephone. Get on and get off fast. See how fast you can get on and off the phone. Control your telephone calls, as we said before. Let other people, let your telephone calls get batched so that you can call them back and you control the calls. Call back at their lunchtimes. Call back at the end of the day. Call back so you control the time. Now, when somebody calls you and you take the call, here's the key question. Always ask, what can I do for you? They'll always have a tendency to say, hi, how you doing? How's things going? How's the weather out there? You say, fine, what can I do for you? And get straight to the point of the phone call. Another thing that you can say is, how can I help you? And make it very, very clear that this is a business call. If you're going to be making phone calls, look upon a phone call as a meeting by wire. And what you do is you make an agenda for the meeting. What many people do, if you talk to people all the time, keep a file on that person. And when you think of calling that person, take out the file and work on your agenda. Go down the agenda. When you completed the agenda, you say, thank you very much. I'll let you go now. I know you're busy. And hang up the phone. What do you do with talkative people? Talkative people, you say, excuse me, I've got another call coming. I've got to run. If that doesn't work, you say, my boss is calling me. If that doesn't work, hang up the phone in the middle of the conversation as though the phone line has been cut off. The person probably won't even pay any attention to it because they're so used to being cut off by other people. Remember this, is that people are time wasters, and the great majority of people have no goals, they have no priorities, they have no plans, they have no concern about becoming successful, and they think that you're the same. They think because their time isn't worth anything, that your time isn't worth anything also. So be very alert to that. By the way, one final point. When you have telephone meetings, keep good notes. I heard a very smart man say that the power is on the side of the person with the best notes. I have lost thousands of dollars because I have agreed to something on the telephone. I have not documented it. The person has come back to me and said, you agreed to something else, and they had it written down in their files, and I couldn't argue. So when you're on the telephone, write. One final point is always have a pen, always have a pencil, always have a pad. Never pick up the telephone without a pen in your hand. The most incredible thing I hear over and over again is when I call people and I try to leave a message, their voice drops and they say, oh, just a minute, I'll go and see if I can find a pencil. And the phone goes clunk and the person goes away and they come back and they say, oh, geez, this pen won't work, just a minute, and the phone goes clunk and they go away again. If a person ever answers the phone without a pen in their hand, you know this person is going nowhere in life. It's as simple as that. My own personal opinion, of course. The next key is punctuality. One of the most important things you can get in terms of reputation is a reputation for being punctual, which means being on time. My friend Joel Weldon says it very well. He says, if you're not early, you're late. That there is only one minute period in any appointment when you're exactly on time. And so if you aren't there early, that are late. Less than 5% of people in America are punctual. Less than 5% of the population is punctual. And those people stand out. As a matter of fact, if you want to stand out from the average person, all you have to do is develop a reputation for punctuality. Pretty soon people say, boy, he or she sure is punctual. He or she sure is punctual. Now, let me tell you something about punctual people. If you ask a person, what do you think about so-and-so who is very punctual? They will say, I think this person is more competent, more reliable, more dependable, more intelligent, more valuable, and more likely to be promoted and given greater responsibilities than the person who is late all the time. The person who is late all the time is considered unreliable, sloppy, undisciplined, a poor time manager, and not capable of greater responsibilities. Why is it that people are not punctual? Two reasons. One is they don't realize how important it is. It never occurs to them that when you are late for an appointment, you are insulting the person who has agreed to see you at that time. If you are in sales and you're late for appointments, you can forget it. I had an interview with a person the other day who I was hiring for a very expensive position. She showed up to an appointment 15 minutes late. A person who comes 15 minutes late to the first appointment, the basic rule is this, is never hire a person who comes late to an interview. A person who comes late to an interview is sending you a flash. It's a signal that this person is unreliable, incompetent, undependable, and if you let them get away with it, you're in for trouble. Anyway, I'm just passing on that. Punctuality, coming back to that. Vince Lombardi of the Green Bay Packers had what he called Lombardi time, which meant 15 minutes early. If he said to his team, be here Lombardi time, that meant be there 15 minutes early. Develop the reputation for being punctual. And finally, one other thing is if you are a superior and you have subordinates or you have people working for you, reporting to you, don't keep them waiting. If you agree to see them at 3 o'clock, don't keep them out there spinning their wheels, standing around. It's one of the worst insults that you can do to people. And if I could just come back one more time, with regard to communications, you know one of the great time wasters in life, this is aside from the points that we're talking about, is lack of concentration, distraction, fatigue. It's not paying attention. How many times have you had problems, serious problems, because you had a conversation with a person and they agreed to do something or you agreed to do something and one or the other of you forgot all about it, didn't remember it, wasn't paying attention, it wasn't done, it cost an enormous amount of money? How often does that happen to you? Paying very close attention is a powerful time management tool. If somebody comes in to see you, cut off all phone calls, close the door, clear your desk, and concentrate single-mindedly on a person. 10 minutes of concentrated conversation will clear up more than 1 hour of interrupted conversation. Pay attention, take notes. Now, number 19 is called work simplification. Do you know that at the turn of the century in the United States, it took 50% of the American population to feed, working on the farms, to feed the other 50% living in the cities. Today, it takes less than 3% of the farm population to feed the other 97% in the cities and half of the world besides. The reason for that is because of mechanization, systematization, simplification of the agricultural process. As a matter of fact, every great advance that has been made since the Industrial Revolution has been toward simplification. Always be looking for ways to do tasks faster, easier, cheaper, quicker, better. Always be looking for ways to do them faster. As a matter of fact, over and over again, individuals have put their careers on the fast track by finding ways to streamline existing processes. Now, here's a couple of other ideas which have been very useful to me in terms of getting more done in a short period of time. Here are the 6, maybe 7 key ideas. If you want to get more done in a given period of time, or if you want to get more done, period, you can do 1, you can work longer. In other words, you can spend more hours working. But that's not a great idea because your productivity starts to drop off and you start to make mistakes, which you have to come back and correct and so on. Number 2 is you can work faster. You can get more done within a short period of time. Number 3 is you can do fewer things, but do more important things, do higher payoff tasks in the same period of time to increase your productivity. Number 4 is you can do things that you are better at. One of the qualities of leaders is that leaders, exceptional people, are always concentrating their time on doing what they do best. So ask yourself, what is it that I'm the best at? What is it that I do the easiest? You can sometimes dramatically increase your productivity simply by concentrating on where you're good. Another thing that you can do is make fewer mistakes. You know, there's an old saying that there's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it over. If you make fewer mistakes, you will get far more done within a certain time, within that time period. And the last thing, which many people miss, is do things together. Teamwork. Putting a group of people together to work on a complex project can sometimes get the project done in 2 hours, whereas it would take another individual 8 or 9 or 10 hours. So do things together. Work as teams with other people. Those are the keys. But work simplification means always finding faster, easier, newer, quicker, cheaper, more efficient ways to do what you're doing. Number 20 is the magic word. The magic word in time management is no. Learn to say no to activities, tasks, responsibilities, and obligations that do not contribute to the most important goals that you have set for yourself. The word no is magic, and the place and the time to use the word no is early and often. It's like the wastebasket. Wastebasket is your best friend when you're sorting the mail. You know, the average person spends 8 months of their life sorting junk mail, reading through junk mail. Absolutely phenomenal, recent study. It's incredible how much of your life is taken up by people who ask you to do things and you do it because of a sense of obligation. Let me tell you, as I said to you before, most people do not value their time, so they don't value yours. Now, how do you deal with a person who you know, who you like, who you respect, who asks you to do something? Very simple. When they ask you to do something or work on a committee or take on a project, ask, especially if you have, and it's not if you're boss, but especially if you have control, is say, let me think about it and get back to you. There's an old saying that delay is the cruelest form of denial. If they press you for a decision, say, I cannot make a decision now, I have to think about it. And after you've thought about it for 24 hours, call them back and say, I've thought about it, I simply don't have the time. But thank you very much for thinking about me, and get on with the rest of your life. You know what Nancy Reagan says? Nancy Reagan says, just say no. Now, in time management, the word no is one of the most powerful of all words. It'll save you hours, weeks, months of working on projects that contribute nothing to your goals. And finally, number 21 is balance. In all of time management, you have to ask this question: is what is the purpose of managing your time well? What is the purpose of getting an extra 2 or 3 hours a day? And the purpose is to enhance and improve the quality of your life. And the most important things in a person's life are their health, their peace of mind, and your relationships. In fact, the quality of your relationships is the true measure of your quality of life. So take time to invest time in your relationships. Spend time with the people who are close to you, your spouse, your loved ones, your parents, your children. Take time, because that's what life is. Life is managing your time so that you can do the things that are most important to you. We start off in life thinking, boy, if I'm really successful at my job, then I'll be able to do all of these things for myself and my family. And what happens is we lose sight of that goal and we become totally preoccupied with the job. Do you know how much time the average working parent spends talking to their child in America today? 30 seconds per day. Do you know how much time the average couple spends talking together? Intimate communication? 4 minutes, according to the recent research. Very, very important. If you want to be successful in life, you've got to be sure what your priorities and values are, and your highest value must be the people that you love and the people who love you. They must be your health, they must be your energy, they must be your peace of mind, they must be your emotional and spiritual development. They must be the completion of you as a human being. So when you are using all these time management techniques, remember that the purpose of using these time management techniques is to enhance the overall quality of your life. Ask again, what would you do if you only had 6 months to live? What would you do if you only had 6 months to live? Who would you spend your time with? Where would you go? What would you want to do? What would be important? What would be unimportant? If you ask that question over and over again, you'll have a tendency to keep your life in balance. Everything in moderation. Now, if I could just summarize by saying 2 or 3 quick things. The essence of success in time management is goals. The key to goals is to write them down and to make organized plans for their accomplishment. The key to those organized plans is to set priorities and determine what is more important and what is less important, and always concentrate on the most valuable use of your time. The key to concentrate on the most valuable use of your time is to stay at the task until it's finished. Persevere without distraction or diversion. Keep at it. Hammer, hammer, hammer until your most important tasks are finished. And finally, develop that sense of urgency. Do it fast. Do it now. Fast tempo is essential to success. Fast tempo goes hand in hand with energy, with happiness, with enthusiasm, with self-esteem. So make crystal clear what you want to do, make crystal clear the steps, and start working on those steps and do something every day to move you toward the most important goals of your life. And if you do that, you will be an excellent time manager, an excellent personal manager, an excellent life manager. you will have a great, great life.
The next key is to dedicate yourself to lifelong learning. Now, what takes you from rags to riches is personal development, personal and professional development. In the 21st century, as Peter Drucker says, knowledge and skill are the keys to the 21st century. And the only thing that will be relevant, the only skill that will be relevant in the 21st century is the ability to learn new skills, because virtually everything you know is becoming obsolete at a rapid rate. Stephen Covey says that your current knowledge base has a half-life of 2 years, which means that half of everything you know will be irrelevant within 2 years. And 2 years from now, half more. So if you're not continually learning and upgrading your knowledge and skills, you're not staying in the same place. As Pat Riley says, the basketball coach says, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If you're not constantly learning, you're actually falling behind. So here are the 3 keys to continuous learning. Number 1 is read in your field 30 to 60 minutes each day. In other words, turn off the television, turn off the radio, put aside the newspaper, and just read in your field. The very best places to read, by the way, are books. Read books, the best-selling books written by the most successful people in your field, because books contain a wealth of riches that can enable you to function at a far higher level, to get much better results than you could before. So read 30 to 60 minutes a day. I've had people tell me, countless people over the years, that reading an hour a day has doubled and tripled their income within a year. The second thing you do is take every course that you possibly can. The courses and seminars that are available to you in your field that are given by professionals are courses that have been developed over years and years and years. They have been tested and tested and tested. The person who is talking to you for several hours has spent thousands of hours learning their subject. They have dry tested this or done test runs with thousands of other people. When you take a course, you can learn enough information in 1 or 2 days, more than you could learn in 2 or 3 years or maybe even a lifetime, all distilled and put together. People say, I can't afford a course. You cannot afford not to buy books. You can't afford not to go to courses.